You're Mine, a Herobrine x Steve fanfiction by Sansgo. Part 1. Steve walked back to his house. He was really dirty from all that mining. As he walked back into his house, he put his iron pickaxe back on his armor stand. He looked out his window to see the sun setting. He watched the beautiful sunset, and after that, he took a shower and went to bed. In the morning, he was tempted to explore a little more. I should explore deeper into the mines and stop being a baby, Steve said to himself. Determined to find diamonds, he knocked on his friend's house. Her name was Alex. She had succeeded to find diamond and obsidian. Alex answered her door. "Oh, hey, Steve," Alex said. Alex had a huge crush on Steve, but had never had enough courage to tell him. "Hey, Alex, wanna go mining together?" Steve said. OMG, that was so lame of me, Steve thought. "Sure, I'll help you find diamonds if I can. You're my best friend," Alex hugged Steve. "Oh, thanks, Alex," Steve said, hugging her back. After they let go, Alex took out her diamond pickaxe, and Steve took out his iron pick, which was in his inventory. "Ha, let's go, cutie," Alex said, and they held hand in hand. Steve blushed. Thanks," he said. "No prob," Alex replied. They walked into the mines. Together, they went deeper and deeper while Alex did all the torch placing and Steve did all the mining. Steve stopped mining when he thought he got too deep. "Are you okay, Steve?" Alex said. Yeah. It's just that I think we've gotten a little too deep in the mines," Steve gulped. "Scared?" Alex teased. No, Steve said. "It's cute when you're scared," Alex smirked. Steve blushed a dark red. Part 2. Alex pinned Steve to the stone wall. "I really like you, Steve," she told him. Steve blushed by how close she was to his mouth. Steve was speechless. "I know you want me." Alex got closer to Steve's mouth. Steve's face was red. He couldn't do anything but tell her the truth. I want you too," Steve said, and he kissed Alex. Alex broke the kiss after a couple of minutes for air. Alex?" Steve asked. "Yeah?" she said, blushing. "Will you be my Minecraft girlfriend?" Steve asked. "Of course, cutie," Alex said. After that, they continued to mine, and Alex succeeded to find Steve diamonds and obsidian. "Well, thanks for all the help. I love you, Steve." Alex kissed Steve, and Steve walked to his house. He took his shower and went to sleep. In the morning, he was ready. He was ready to mine on his own and to go extremely deep. His enchanted diamond sword and armor and pickaxe was ready to go. He felt ready, and he was. So he traveled deeper into the mines. He traveled more, and more, until he reached something. He found lots of diamonds on his way, too. He had reached rails. He saw a minecart. What's so bad about riding it? It might be fun, Steve told himself. He grabbed the minecart and placed it on the rail. He got into it, and it went fast on the powered rails. It was so fun to Steve. He did not know where the rails led, but he didn't care. So fun! He waved his hands in the air. After the minecart stopped by a diamond block, he mined it. "How fun," he said. He looked straight to see where it had led him. He was back on land, and in front of him, with his very own eyes, he saw the biggest mansion ever. It had so much obsidian and diamond used to build it. "Whoa!" Steve yelled. Part 3. Steve stared in amazement looking at the mansion. "I should go in." The teenager opened the mansion's iron doors and went in. Steve looked at how giant it was. "I wonder if anyone lives here," Steve said. He went up the second floor. He saw amazing, yet creepy things, like a lot of crafting tables and enchantment tables with books that stared at him. Wherever he went, by the books would stare back. The third floor had brewing stands, and in the chest there was diamonds, gold, iron, leather, and golden apples. He took some, not caring if he stole from a Poe. Also, there was an armor stand on the third floor. He took the enchanted diamond armor with the enchanted sword and the sand. "I'm going to be so rich," he said excitedly. He went to the fourth floor. How many floors does this person have? Steve thought to himself. The fourth floor looked like somewhat of a bedroom. He saw a red bed that made him think of Alex's orangey red hair. "I miss Alex. I wonder where I am. I hope she's not worried," Steve said. He was not worried because he could take the minecart he had and ride it back to the mines to go out. By the red bed was a bookshelf and another enchantment table. He looked in the bookshelf and found books about mostly mobs, world ruling, secret codes, powers, and etc. But Steve wondered why a pro would have books about that. What if it wasn't a pro who owned the house? He headed to the last and only floor, the fifth floor, which has the balcony. It was really beautiful. It had chairs to sit on and watch the view of the mountains. It also had a chest. It had fireworks in it. Then Steve decided it was time to go. He put his stuff in his inventory and went to the second floor. That's when he stopped because he heard a sound, like a door slam. That's when it hit him that the person who owned the house was back. He ran up to the third floor and hid under the bed. A couple of minutes later, he heard footsteps coming up the stairs to the third floor. Steve tried to keep himself hidden. Then, he peeked his eyes out and saw only gray shoes, just like his. Also the same size. Steve thought that the person, which was a boy, as he could tell, had the same shoes. But he was wrong. Above that, he saw blue pants and nothing else. Is this like a copy of me or something? Steve thought. The person went to bed. Steve thought it was a good time to sneak out of the house. He also wanted to see who the person was, but he waited a couple of minutes for the man to be asleep for sure. Then he snuck out. He quietly slid out from under the bed. What Steve saw with his very own eyes was unbelievable. He saw Herobrine, the one and only Herobrine. His heart almost stopped racing. "I've stolen from Herobrine," he thought to himself. He packed up to the wall and quietly tiptoed to the stairs. But as he was going down the stairs, his squeaky shoes made a creak. At that moment, he thought his life was over. He thought his eternity would end. He thought he would die straight then. So he stayed still and looked at Herobrine. He was fast asleep. So he sighed a sigh of relief and went down the stairs. But when he took his first 2 steps down the stairs, he could not take any more steps. It felt like he was frozen. "Not so fast, Steve," Herobrine said. Steve tried to break through and run, but Herobrine's magical grip was holding him back. Then he was pulled up the stairs, and Herobrine pinned him to the wall. Herobrine smirked at Steve, because they were so close together. Steve tried to scream, but Herobrine covered his mouth. "No, Don't scream, Herobrine said. Steve didn't listen. He screamed more, but Herobrine still covered his mouth. A sword appeared in Herobrine's hand, and he put it to Steve's throat. Stop screaming, Herobrine commanded. Steve stopped screaming. Herobrine then let Steve talk. Steve took in a breath. Why are you doing this to me? I'm sorry I took your stuff. Here, take it back. Steve threw the stuff to Herobrine. Herobrine took it back. I didn't care what you took. I just wanted to have a little fun. Herobrine smirked. Part 4. What do you mean by that? Steve blushed. You know what I mean by that, Herobrine chuckled. I have a girlfriend. Also, why in the devil's name would I want to be with you? Steve madly yelled. Then Herobrine kissed Steve romantically hard. Herobrine pulled Steve closer till their heads were touching. Herobrine broke the kiss after some seconds. A trail of slobber both connected their mouths. Because I'm better than her, Herobrine smirked. As Steve was catching his breath, Herobrine stuck his tongue in Steve's mouth and explored every bit. He let go. Wow, you taste so good, Herobrine said. I want you, Herobrine, Steve said. Good choice, Herobrine smirked. Herobrine threw Steve on his bed and got on top of him. You can be my little slut. How do you like that, Steve? Herobrine asked, romantically smirking. Yes, please, Herobrine, Steve said. You're lucky, Steven, Herobrine said, slowly taking off Steve's shirt. Steve blushed. But then, Alex came running up Hero's stairs. Steve? How could you cheat on me with Herobrine? How could you? How? Alex yelled, crying. Steve was speechless once again. Ugh, I can't believe your girlfriend came up to my mansion to ruin our fun, Herobrine said. He went to Alex and smacked her. Get lost. She's mine now. Herobrine took out a sword. Get out, he demanded. Alex ran down the stairs to the last floor and went straight out the door. She took her minecart and rode back. We're all alone now, Herobrine smirked. He continued to take off Steve's shirt. Steve blushed. Then his shirt was off completely. What do you want? Herobrine asked romantically. You to fuck me already? Steve commanded. Impatient are we? Herobrine smirked. He took off his pants, revealing his member. Steve blushed. After a couple of minutes of stripping, they were both naked. Herobrine smirked. You're such a little slut, he said. They had hardcore sex. Herobrine, I'm gonna... Me too. They both came on each other, and just like that, they were asleep. Part 5. Steve woke up exhausted. What happened last night? He groaned. He sat up and looked around. I forgot. I'm in Herobrine's mansion. And we had sex, Steve remembered. Herobrine woke up. He slowly pulled Steve back down to the bed. Good morning, love. Remember what happened last night? He asked. Steve blushed. It felt amazing, Steve. Herobrine pulled Steve closer. He kissed him. You're mine, Herobrine said. I know, Steve said, blushing. I should go home, Steve said. Love you, Herobrine said. Me too. Steve put his clothes back on and went out the door. He rode back on his minecart and went out of the mines. When he reached the surface, there stood Alex with her arms crossed and her deadly glare. Care to explain? She asked. Alex, I didn't, Steve stuttered. I see how it is, Stephen. We are over. Alex smacked Steve angrily hard. Ouch! Alex, please don't go! He yelled and shouted, but Alex kept running to her house. As she got there, before she entered her house door, since they were neighbors, she put up the middle finger at Steve, then ran inside her house. Steve sighed. He went in his house. Then he got a call from Herobrine. Steve answered. Hey, baby, ready to live in my mansion? Herobrine asked. What do you mean, Hero? Steve asked. Steve. Herobrine paused. What is it? Steve asked. I think it's better for us to talk in person. Meet me at my mansion. I love you, Herobrine said. I do too, Steve said. He hung up. I wonder what's so important, Steve said to himself. He rode to Herobrine's mansion and saw Herobrine open the door. There you are, Steve, he said. What's so important? Steve asked. Steve. Herobrine then got down on one knee. Will you marry me? Herobrine asked, showing a big diamond ring. Steve gasped. Steve muttered. I can't. I'm so sorry, Herobrine, Steve said and kissed him. I'm just not ready yet, he said. To be continued.